Hey everyone, and welcome back to another What's for Dinner video. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Stephanie and I do food related content here on my channel. Today's video is all about sharing some of the meals that I have made for my family, and I'm hoping that these will give you some dinner ideas and inspiration. Now I have 3 amazing and super delicious casseroles to share with you this week, so let's head on over to the kitchen and get started. The first casserole I have for you this week is pure comfort food, and that is a Perogy casserole. So here are the ingredients. You're going to be needing some sliced smoked sausage. I'm using Smokies, but you can use whichever type of sausage you prefer. You're also going to need a 1/4 cup of milk, 1 can of cream of mushroom soup, 3/4 cup of sour cream, some cooked ham. You're also going to need 1 green pepper and 1 onion, some frozen pierogies, and for seasoning, I'm going to be adding some seasoned salt, some garlic powder, and some dill. And then finally, you're also going to need some shredded cheddar cheese. Now, I'll have the exact measurements that I used in the description box down below. So I'm going to start off by chopping up my green pepper and my onion. So now I'm just chopping the onions into small pieces, hoping that my kids won't notice them. So here I'm just adding my veggies into a hot pan with some melted butter, and I'm just going to saute these for about 3 minutes until my onions are translucent. Alright, so while the veggies are cooking and I'm going to keep an eye on it, I'm going to get started on my sausages and my ham. So for the sausages, I'm just slicing them up, and I'm going to be adding about 1 cup to the casserole. Now for the ham, I'm just cutting it into cubes, and I'm going to be using about 3/4 cup. My veggies are done, everything is chopped up, so now I'm going to grab my pierogies and add them to the bottom of my 9x13 baking dish, and then I'm going to add the sausages, the ham, and the veggies on top. So now I'm just going to set this aside and I'm going to get started on my sauce. So for the sauce, I'm going to grab a bowl and add in my cream of mushroom soup. To that, I'm adding in 3/4 cup of sour cream, a 1/4 cup of milk, half a teaspoon of garlic powder, half a teaspoon of dill, and 1 teaspoon of seasoning salt. I'm going to mix this till well combined, and then I'm going to pour this over my casserole. Now all that's left is to sprinkle the cheese on top. I'm going to bake this in the oven at 350 for about 30 to 35 minutes. So this is what we had for dinner and we loved it. Oh my goodness, this was so good. Now the original recipe didn't call for any of the seasonings that I used in this, and it also did not call for the sour cream. I just felt it needed a little bit more, and I'm so glad I made these changes because it turned out great. It's definitely a new favorite for us. Now on to casserole number 2. Up next is a Mexican beef and rice casserole. This was another really good one, and for this one you're going to need 1 pound of ground beef. I actually have 2 pounds here, so I only used half and then used the other half for another recipe the next day. You're also going to need a bag of mixed vegetables of corn, carrots, and peas. My family hates peas, and I couldn't find individual bags of frozen carrots, so I'm just going to be adding frozen corn. You're then going to need 1 3/4 cup of undrained diced tomatoes, which is about half of this can right here. You're also going to need 1 cup of salsa, 1 cup of chicken broth. You're going to need some Mexicana cheese blend. I'm also going to be using an onion. This isn't part of the recipe, but I'm going to be cooking this with the ground beef. I always add an onion when I cook ground beef. I just think it gives it a great flavor. You're also going to need some taco seasoning, and then finally 1 cup of minute rice. So we've got our ingredients, so now I'm going to head on over to the stove and get started on my ground beef. Going to season this with some salt and pepper, and I'm also going to be adding some garlic powder. Gonna give this a good mix, and then I'm just going to let this cook all the way through, and while I'm waiting, I'm going to preheat my oven to 375 degrees. The ground beef is cooked and I've removed the excess fat, and now I'm just dumping this into a bowl. To the meat, I'm adding in my rice, half a cup of cheese, 1 cup of salsa, and then I'm adding in my diced tomatoes, my chicken broth, my frozen corn, and my taco seasoning. Going to mix this all together, and then I'm going to transfer this into a 9x13 baking dish. So I've covered this with some aluminum foil, and I'm going to bake this in the oven for about 45 minutes or until the rice is fully cooked. Now that my rice is cooked, I'm going to add some cheese on top, and I'm going to put it back in the oven uncovered for another 5 to 7 minutes. Alright, so here it is. This was really delicious. I just had this with some sour cream on top and a little bit of parsley. This was really good. Lots of flavor in this one, and the leftovers were even better the next day. So I really hope you will give this one a try, and now on to the next one. The last meal I have for you this week is a chicken Cordon Bleu casserole. If you like chicken Cordon Bleu, then you will love this. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. So here I have 3 tablespoons of flour. You're also going to need some chicken. The recipe calls for 4 chicken breasts. I was in a hurry this day, so I'm using a roasted chicken that I've just cut into pieces. You're also going to need some ham. You can just grab some from the deli. I'm using smoked ham, and I have about 2 cups of chopped ham here. You're also going to need some crushed Ritz crackers for the topping. Then you're going to need about 3 tablespoons of grated Parmesan cheese. If you have freshly grated, then by all means use that instead. It will be even better, but Parmesan is insanely expensive here, so this is what I'll be using. You also need half a tablespoon of Dijon mustard. Then we have some Worcestershire sauce. You're going to need about 1 teaspoon. You're going to need 1 cup of milk. And the recipe calls for half a teaspoon of salt for the topping. I ended up leaving that out, and I'll explain why later on in the video. You're also going to need some Swiss cheese, half a cup of chicken broth, and 3 tablespoons of melted butter. So I'm going to start by preheating my oven at 350. I have a 9x13 baking dish here, and I'm going to start by adding in my chicken, and then I'm going to add the ham right on top. Now I'm going to add my Swiss cheese, and then we will get started on the sauce. So I have 3 tablespoons of butter here that I'm going to melt in a medium saucepan, and once melted, I'm going to whisk in my 3 tablespoons of flour. I'm going to cook this for a minute or so just to remove that raw flour taste. So now I'm going to slowly whisk in the milk, and then I'm going to add in my chicken broth. I'm going to season this with a little bit of salt and pepper, and then I'm just going to keep stirring this until the sauce thickens. The sauce has thickened nicely, so now I'm going to add in the Dijon mustard and the Worcestershire sauce. Going to stir this all together, and then I'm going to pour this over my casserole. Now for the topping, I'm going to mix together 1 cup of crushed Ritz crackers with 3 tablespoons of Parmesan and 3 tablespoons of melted butter. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the recipe actually calls for half a teaspoon of salt, but I'm not going to add it in. And the reason for that is because the crackers and the Parmesan cheese is already salty, and my butter is also salted. So I think if I were to add this extra salt in here, it would be way too salty. Now I'm going to sprinkle this on top of my casserole, and then I'm going to bake this in the oven for about 20 to 25 minutes until the sauce is bubbly and the top is golden brown. So here it is right out of the oven. Like I said, this was insanely delicious. I love the crunchiness that you get from the Ritz crackers. It's super good, you guys. You guys need to give this one a try. It's so good. So that's all I have for you this week. I hope you enjoyed tagging along as I cooked these delicious meals. Let me know if you want me to make more videos like this by hitting the like button. And if you're not already, please consider subscribing, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so that you're notified when I post a video. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, I will see you again in my next one. Bye guys.